Olha o Henrique. Já fez a play. Triple, ace do garoto.
About that, because if they want to win, they'll have to play even more insane. So that's what we're waiting for. Fierce though opens it up. Takes down Genesis. Fault is there, and now they're going on the side. And emotional rack-ups 3 and 4.
At the bomb site as quick as they can, and there's so many players here. Abuse only on 1 HP, but that might be enough to buy him some time, as there's 20 seconds left on the clock now. Abuse spots one player. Arson comes in for one, but does he reveal his space in the back? No. Erupt gets the trigger discipline and the clutch.
The weapons for a while here, even if they lose. So Euphoria. Ooh, an ecstasy with a triple there. What a play by him. Trying to get the ace, pushing in, gets one. Can he get the ace? Ecstasy, what an ace.
Just before he gets information.
Oh, but Mirage triple kill!
God,
He stops it, and I think Xenocide, they've won it! They have made the comeback work! A triple spray down Xenocide, they are your champions!
Hello everyone, welcome to our competitive stream. I want to remind everyone that is watching that this isn't one of our normal community live streams. So the community live streams is when we usually play viewer games, we give news about the game itself and have certain giveaways. And that's a time where we get to also talk to you guys and get feedback and all that cool stuff. But I want to talk about how this stream is formatted. It's basically going to be focused on the competitive scene and what we have planned and about things that we have in development. So I guess before we get started, I want to make sure that I introduce myself and make sure that our special guests here are able to introduce themselves as well. So for me, if you don't know me, I am WadiX, and I am the Senior Community and Esports Manager. I stepped in to help lead the our esports initiative starting last year in February 2020. So I look forward to share with you some of our plans and the new future today. And I guess you guys can take it over.
Yes, hello. For those who don't know me, my name is Naigel. I'm the lead level designer at Critical Force. My responsibilities lie within the battlefields of the game, so you know where the competitive matches take place, so all the maps. So that was the main reason why I felt it was necessary, for lack of better words, to be in this stream. So thank you for having me, and that's my short intro.
Yeah, and hello everyone. I'm Zenklar, a senior game designer at the Critical Ops team. And yeah, I focus mainly on new and existing features and game modes and weapons and gameplay and meta stuff, among others. And together with the design team, we kind of do a lot of the gameplay related balancing and focus. So it's good to be here, and Wadi has prepared a lot of things for us to cover. So that's why I felt also that it's good for us to get here. But yeah, take it away, Wadi.
All right. Yeah. No. Thank you guys for joining me today. And again, it's a different type of stream. So I would say it's more of like a podcast kind of thing, right? Except our faces are here. I guess different from the traditional kind of podcast. But you know, that is something that we are looking forward to do more towards the future, and kind of like maybe on Discord. We have the Discord stages now and things like that, so we can actually, you know, talk more about esports or any type of development things. So that would be really cool. But again, one of the main reasons why we wanted to have the stream was to make sure we continue to show more transparency to our players of what we want to do and what we want to achieve as well. So I guess without further ado, the first things that we can kind of cover is one of the first things that a lot of people are talking about is about the circuit. So circuit, Circuit launched last year, and It has been an amazing experience so far, and we have been able to see a ton of great high-level plays and strategies, and most importantly, throughout the 2 seasons that we had of Circuit, we were able to get important information on what we want to do in the future. So let me explain that a little bit. So everything that happens during Circuit, it basically kind of shows us a lot of different things. How weapons are used, how the maps are being utilized, how people play on the maps, and let's dive into that subject first. So because I mean, in a sense, you kind of say like we're watching, right? We're watching what you guys are doing, right? So
Definitely.
so maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that first, you know, and say like what do you guys look for when you're watching these high level plays?
So yeah, if it comes to like my area, which is of course the map, so of course the first reason why I watch the circuit or other competitive stuff is, you know, it's fun. It's interesting to me to see. Of course I'm kind of biased, so the environments that they play in, they are typically the environments that I created. So in that sense, what I tend to look out for more than just, you know, watching the games is that how do the maps perform? Are there any like bugs in the maps that I can, you know, fix or at least write down to fix for later? And but also like how do the maps flow? Like what are the timings of the teams? How long does it take to get to a certain place? What kind of advantage spots do they have? Stuff like this. So I try to like look out for these things that I can then like compile in my own list of things to like at least consider and look out for. And then I fix or change the maps based on that. So one of the very recent examples is that I noticed that in port there was this infamous forklift gap.
Right in the,
So
Uh-huh.
I saw that was like a little bit too advantageous for the coalition,
Yeah.
because they could kind of set up their position and have like a very small gap to watch through to mid. So that bothered me, and I was like, okay, this is not good. So I figured that I would change that at least. So, you know, I talked with my team, the ones who make the assets. I told them to change the forklift to
Yeah.
not include the gap anymore, and I also made that forklift penetrable now. So it's like you can still get behind this forklift, but it's not too much of an advantage. You still are you know, at risk of getting wall banged from people who might like think that you're behind there, so they can do something about it. So that's like a very particular example, but it stretches to like, you know, a lot of different things that happen in the map. So that's basically in a nutshell what I tend to look out for. Like, just how do the maps perform? Are there really any game breaking glitches in the maps, and does it work well on a competitive level? Of course, it's not just built for competitive play, it's also of course built for just, you know, casual play, but the heavy underlying tone is just focused on competitive. It needs to be a balanced map, and balance can be in either team, or it can be like, you know, try to have a 50-50 balance, but that can differ per map, of course. But yeah, that's basically how I look at it, and that's also why circuit and all the other tournaments are really helpful for me, and the feedback from the community, so that I can, you know, do better and change the existing maps, rework maybe a couple of them, or make a new map with these things that I found in those maps in mind, from those matches, I mean.
Yep. And again, it just there's so much involved into this. Like, let's say I just remember even like you know, maybe a year, like a year or two ago, when there's like certain things. Let's say if you're walking, and when you're walking, you're not supposed to make any noise. And I remember particularly like on Plaza and canals, there's like these little grooves on the ground, and when you're walking over it, it makes this like sound, so everyone automatically knows that, hey, there's somebody over there. So there's a lot
Yeah.
that we're looking at like that, right? And of course, later on in the stream, we will talk about the meta, more like, okay, keeping things fresh. But I guess what we're talking about here is more like the things that seems a little bit more advantage of
Yeah.
certain players.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want to try to have more of a balance kind of thing
Yeah.
for everybody. Cool.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And Zenklar, I guess same thing,
Yeah.
right? Weapon wise, I mean, that's maybe why some of the weapons that we changed. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, why don't you give your insight? Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, like when I'm watching high level plays, usually what I do a lot is watch the matches while they happen, and also afterwards to analyze them like really thoroughly. I'm looking at the behavior aspect of things a lot more than probably what Nigel is looking into. But basically, I'm looking into when are people peeking behind corners? Are they crouching or running or standing or walking? Like, how are they actually playing the game, and how are they taking those positions? And also what the team is doing while some player is engaging, for example, a group of other players. Is the team circling around? Are they figuring out like all this tactic stuff that I'm trying to focus on a lot of times in terms of gameplay? And especially the kind of peekers advantage related things are the core in many ways. Like who has the advantage at what point, and that comes to play in the maps as well. And really understanding, do players know and have they practiced those aspects of the game? Because we all know that going closer to a corner is usually not a good idea if you're engaging someone in 1v1, for example. So all those things are something that I really care about in gameplay wise. And as well, for example, for the weapons, what weapon is used and what weapon is the other player having against you. That's a really important thing, because range, distance, all the stuff that comes to weapon versus weapon fights is something that we look into really carefully. And we do follow a lot of the data as well. So it's not just feedback and what we think is happening. It's also a lot of the times like this weapon wins this fight usually against like at a certain percentage type of thing. So we're looking at things at a really high and deep level that players don't usually always see. And that's also one of the ways we focus on doing balancing for the weapons. Later when we talk about stuff in terms of meta, the big focus was on unpopular weapons, and we want all of the weapons to be used in this game, not just a specific single weapon that then becomes the top player. So that's something that we want everyone to master, all of the weapons. And of course, changing them means keeping things fresh, but also giving a new challenge to everyone in the same time. So yeah, that's kind of the things I'm focusing on usually.
Cool. That's awesome, and I'm really enjoying this conversation already. So again, basically, we'll talk more about the meta a little bit later. But I think we've come a long way from everybody using AK as their choice of weapon in the game just a little while ago, and it's great to see that there's different types of weapons already played in the circuit. So with the different changes that we have, we hope to see different type of weapons being used as well. So that being said, I guess straight a little bit off topic, not too much, but I guess about circuit itself. We want to make sure that we are watching the gameplay. We want to better the game itself in future tournaments. But this season, I was fortunate enough to be able to sit down and talk to some of our top teams and players to hear their thoughts about circuit in all of our regions, about our competitive scene. So it was great to be able to hear and share also some of our plans and thoughts about the future of the competitive scene. But based on a lot of the talks and based on what we observed, we make a lot of changes. So the first circuit, going into the second season, we did multiple different changes. Like we wanted teams to have more of a. We want teams to basically try to stick together if they can. It doesn't. If you're a team that always kind of disbands after after a game, it's just kind of like, then what can we do going in the future, right? What can we do going forward? And I think if we watch other esports, like you usually kind of see like a lot of the same teams, and it's kind of like these teams have this fan base, and I think that's what we want to kind of go towards in the future, because it's like then you're kind of rooting for the team, and then it's about the story about esports, right? Like some players are part of this team, and then all of a sudden, they go to a rival team, and it's so devastating. But it's you know, it's that's what we want to create here. And just with the upcoming changes with Circuit, we also noticed that there was not enough plays from the player themselves. So I believe you would play in qualifiers, for example, and then you would then play a week, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for round 16, round 8, and it was kind of just like really compacted. And we wanted to make sure that we did some schedule changes. So upcoming Circuit, what we plan to do is have it so that you play pretty much almost every week. And when you do this kind of format, I believe what it does is that it gives you time to practice, but also, let's say if you know who you're facing, you have time to strategize. Like you have time to be like, okay, maybe this team is kind of weak on this map, or like whatever it is, and you can kind of plan ahead. And that is what one of the most important things we want to do for the upcoming Circuit is the schedule change. And there will be slight format changes. So I believe a lot of people were like, oh, recording rules are pretty strict. And there will be some slight changes to that. I won't say like complete, but we are looking into how it could be easier. But you know, just talking about recording rules, I did also want to mention, you know, a lot of users end up recording their gameplay on their devices, but some people have given pretty good suggestions too. You know, they have been saying that they have basically when they're playing the game, they're streaming the game, and they're streaming to unlisted YouTube link or something like that. So that could also help, because then all the gameplay is not stored on your device. Now it's all on stream, so that when you're submitting your recordings, you can just send a link and then it's set, right? So that's some ideas, and we will be looking in different ways to communicate better, to try to teach even new people that is just jumping into competitive and they want to learn more about that. But I guess the last thing I want to cover about the whole Circuit part is also the visibility. You know, we want to make sure that there's more people from, let's say, casual, that's able to see this awesome, fun kind of competition that we have here, and overall throughout our social medias and our websites and things like that. But I guess that's the most of the changes for that. I will talk about the overall plans that we have for esports a little bit later on. But I guess before we switch to a very awesome topic, I guess one more thing is talking about tournament organizer program. We had some changes since last year, so I guess a quick update. We do look forward in the future to empower more community organizers to host more tournaments. And I think the idea is that if there is a dedicated community tournament organizer, we would love to work with them and be able to have them have the opportunity to utilize possibly like exclusive prizes, or they can have players participate and earn some type of points. We will be talking about a little bit later on today as well. But overall, in general, you know, we appreciate all the community organizers that have been hosting events. We want to see some different types of events too. You know, not just all the traditional 5v5. I mean, that's why we even talked about you know, let's say elimination game mode that was introduced, right, Zenklar? Maybe that could be something cool to watch instead of having a bomb in the mix. Now you have it's just focused on killing. Eliminating the other team, I guess you would say. But yes, like we it's just we want to be able to, talking about the tournament organizers, we want to be able to highlight those ones that are taking time and really go above and beyond, trying to make sure that the experience is good for all the people that has been participating, like the stream assets, and you have streams and things like that. And I want to make note, that's why we have started to work with more organizers. Let's say Compact Esports, they used to be called COL, and we are now working with them with Circuit because they have been doing so well organizing certain things, and mobile esports. That's event coming up in June to the mid July, and they have been here since day one of the very first organizers of Critical Ops, and we look forward to work with more in the future. So, but yeah, I think that's most of it. There's so much to talk about. I think if we were to cover about everything, we would be sitting here for hours, or maybe days. But okay, let's jump into meta changes here. Okay. All right. Core gameplay. So meta changes and balancing, and core, the next thing we'll be talking about is core gameplay and principles of the game. So where do we want to start here?
Yeah, so I think it's a good segue from the circuit talks, especially because the stuff that I usually focus on is a lot of this core gameplay stuff. And what I wanted to just highlight with this segment here is that things that are really important for the game, and just want players to understand that what the core of the game is really about.
Mm-hmm.
So as everyone knows, Critical Ops is really about tactics, team play, and using the weapons and all your tools, so to say, to take home the win in every game mode. And in different game modes, that means a different thing, of course. Diffuse is the main mode that we've been focusing on always, and a lot of our balancing and everything is based on diffuse.
Yes.
We do our economy balancing on that mode. We do most of our weapon balancing on that mode, and those maps are part of the main balancing that we always use as our core. And that's really one of those like things that I want players to understand, that that's how we balance and how we look at balance in the game. And in order for us to improve that and to, change it up sometimes, it really means that we are looking at it from the high level, but also from the low level. So the new players who are coming into the game, what their experience is in that game mode, because it's not just that they go to TDM or some other game mode until they figure out how to play the game. They have the same kind of ways to jump into the actual matches right away. They might be coming from another FPS game, and that means that they already have a base level of knowledge on FPS games on mobile, and we want to make sure that the experience caters to everyone from new to professional level players. And that's really one of the core things that I wanted to highlight, at least with this one. And maybe Naigel has something to say about, like, in terms of maps, like, does those all apply?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, like, of course, the fuse maps are important to have here in the core gameplay to kind of dictate translate what the diffuse mode really is. So I think that having maps in being made in that sense is, of course, always a nice addition to the map pool. But we should not also forget that, like what you said, you practice you practice the game in like TDM. So then I think it feels also important to have like smaller maps. And of course, now with the upcoming game mode elimination, it's also nice to have just a smaller arena to kind of get to know the core of the game better, but maybe without the economy and all that stuff. So it's a different playing field, but it still contributes to the whole approach to the diffuse maps or diffuse game mode, I would say. You can use basically any game mode in any map to kind of practice your skills, or maybe you're a bit rusty with your ratio, so you just go into a deathmatch with just your ratio or something like this. So I think that there should always be more or less like a how do you say, like a synergy between like the modes that are available as well as the maps that are available, so that they can work together and can be utilized in many different ways. So yeah, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking about when you were mentioning this.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to also good segue in terms of like the game modes is that what we did with, for example, elimination now is that we've really been trying to focus on these different ways to learn the game and different aspects of the game. Elimination focuses on different core principles in terms of what it's teaching you than diffuse. There's no economy. It's all about team versus team, eliminate the other team, aiming and corner peeking and doing that small teamwork moment is really key in that mode if you're taking it seriously. It focuses on those moments where half of your, like in diffuse, half of your team is gone. It's just you and the rest of the few guys left, and you guys need to take out the bigger force type of situation. So how do you pick them out one by one? It really allows you to learn different things. Whereas, for example, deathmatch itself is really all about just kind of getting into the flow of things and like just shooting and aiming and doing other things. So it's really everything is kind of teaching you different ways, and the game modes are made to serve all those, and that's why we are always aiming to bring new ideas and new game modes, and we're exploring a lot of the ideas, and some of them stick and some of them don't. Like with the Skull Hunter and our free for all mode, it didn't really perform as we wanted. So we're basically taking it back to the drawing board and kind of looking at it from that point of view, like where is this free for all experience in our game, for example. We know that heavily people like the team play aspect in our game. We see it in the game modes that are being played. All the popular ones, it's always a team versus team mode. So that's one of the things that we're looking into, for example, that how does a solo game or duo game perform in these scenarios, because the community really likes that team play aspect of things. And that's a good thing because it is one of our core principles in terms of the game. So it's all about finding these nuances and figuring out how to improve them for the future.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that so game modes, of course, there will be fun ones like Purify when you're kind of just chasing someone throughout the map and things like that. But again, what I really like what you said, Zenklar, because like I feel like deathmatch, like you said, focuses on the aiming and trying the different guns and things like that. Then you have elimination that just focuses solely on kind of like, I mean, you're working with your team, and it also works on a different aspect of the diffuse mode too. So what I really like about certain game modes that we have that's introduced is that it also kind of like, if you add it all up, it is pretty much what you do in diffuse. You're working on all those different aspects to make your diffuse game better. I mean, I don't think there would be a mode that we just plant the bomb. What kind of? Did we have something similar?
We did have a couple bombs in one mode, so it's kind of always exploring these ideas. But that's the one of the things. Like the main thing is like we want to explore wackier ideas in our event game modes that we usually do.
Yes.
But in more serious ones, we do look at them in terms of like, okay, what can this bring into the core experience of the game? And that's how free for all, like Skull Hunter and Elimination, and for example with the gun game changes that we did, that's also one of the ways of exploring, because it's all about guns and mastering each and kind of going through that competitive, like who gets to through them fastest to kind of kill. So it really plays on that, like, okay, you're on the last like snipers and then somebody else is on shotguns or somebody else is on pistols. How do you defeat that weapon? You need to figure that out in gun game. So it really helps the gunplay aspect of things. And these are some of the things that players might not be thinking about, is that you can get good at certain aspect of the game in other game modes and then take that learning and bring it to diffuse. Master that role, that's stuff in diffuse, and you will be a valuable asset for a team, because everyone in the team has to carry their part. It's not about everyone mastering everything. and everyone being a super aimer, if your strategy sucks, then you're not going to be able to win the game because
Yeah.
you're just going to get outplayed by everyone who uses utilities better. So there is so many other things that play into becoming a good at defuse and being a good at a high level player. So that's some of the things that we wanted to highlight with this stuff.
And I wanted to kind of point out, though, you know, like, let's say gun game. We have been talking about gun game for a while. And when it was first introduced, it was kind of like team versus team gun game. And although that was, you know, pretty cool, I do like what we did with this recently. With it's just like you see anybody,
It just allows you to just jump in, basically.
Yes, it's I love it a lot more because it's just kind of like, you know, I don't have to worry. Oh, that's just my teammate. You know, it's just, damn, I can't shoot them. I just, you know, your goal is try to win at the very end. But I guess what I want to cover is that, you know, there has been a lot of changes into breaking the tradition of how things were made back then, and we have been jumping into new tech and seeing, oh, what can we do to make this mode happen. And even though it might be a fun game mode that we introduce, it unlocks different possibilities that we could be able to use in different things. Like Zenklar, I think, like some of the game modes that we did before on Shanti, maybe it introduced
Defend.
Yes, defend. So I guess I just wanted to make sure I kind of note that before we move on.
Yeah, like for example, defend is one of those modes that showed really good promise as a different kind of mode to defuse. It was all about protecting the bomb site and trying to deliver the bomb there. It was like American football, but within critical ops. So it's something that performed really well, and we did a different kind of iteration of it during the last Rewind event, where we changed things up a little and tested how it performs. And we're continuing exploring that idea, but it's some of these things like developing a completely new game mode that has the potential for ranked is a real challenge. First, we need to see that it performs well, but also what are the inner depths of the game mode, the mechanics, can they evolve? Can we include, for example, economy within this game mode, or does it break the whole experience? And that's some of the things we need to explore, and it does take a lot of time and effort and data. And that's something that we've been doing now, for example, with Defend. And most of those learnings actually are something that we were able to utilize in creating elimination, for example. And we are still now, of course, looking into like, how do we develop this further? Is there something we can add to this to make it even better? And we're always exploring the idea of more ranked game modes, because ranked gaming is really important within critical ops, and we want to improve that experience. So right now,
But
it's kind of like we have multiple candidates. So
it's like ranked is not just defuse. I think that people are like sometimes confused. Ranked is not, by definition, it's not just defuse. It just means there's literally rank. So what I would think is that basically, technically, or theoretically, however you want to put it, any game mode can potentially be ranked, right?
Yes.
So you can have defend rank, you can have elimination rank, you can even have gun game ranked, but we just have to evolve that and see how that can go. But the way I see it is that we can make certain game modes ranked, but it's not entirely, I don't feel like it's entirely up to us to define what is the true competitive game mode. Like, you can make anything competitive if you want. You just you kind of agree on a certain rule set, and you go by this rule set, and then it's like, okay, we decide, as a community or as a player, we decide this is going to be some kind of a new tournament format or official format. It's the same when we had the content creator cup. Like those were deathmatch was used. So arguably you could say that that could also be potentially a ranked mode.
That was fun to watch too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Like definitely, like having the community show to us, like, okay, this thing is something we really, really enjoy, and
Yeah.
then it's up to like what we are doing is looking at like the viability of, okay, what happens if we add ranked to this kind of game mode, and where does it lead into, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I really agree with that statement
Yeah.
on Nigel.
And but of course, like there's still I have to basically I have to also consider like what is being done by the community and and what is done by people like Zenklar in the company itself. Like what do we do with the game modes? What do we do with the meta? And like how can I, like in my domain, kind of provide in that? Like how can I make maps that kind of cater more towards this, let's say, agreed rules and stuff like this, so it's fun. It's still fun to explore. It's just not easy, and yeah, we're not the only ones dictating you how to play the game. Like anyone is free to like come up with their own rule set. Just and the very like good like tangible example would be the content creator cup that we had that was organized and played. It was really a lot of fun, but not saying that circuit wasn't fun. Circuit was also a lot of fun, and all the other competitive stuff is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're saying that it can be extended to more than the fuse. And me personally, I really enjoy the elimination part, and I really see it even makes me want to like organize something with for I don't know, some kind of tournament or whatever for just elimination game mode. So
let's make it happen.
I'm hyped at least. Yes.
You heard it here first.
Yes. Yes. So to I guess to wrap up around the subject, there's a lot of we're watching a lot, like where there's a tournament, we're watching the how players play different modes, and a lot of it affects of what we do in the future. And I just want to it's just make sure I say that, because it's like basically what it is. It's just like what is we have more of an idea of what players like, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense in the future. And of course all the feedback is generally welcome, but I would like to say constructive feedback, and it goes for everything that we do. If the more information that you show about like, oh, why this is good or why this is bad, it lets us understand more about that topic as well. So again, we have a lot more other subjects to talk about, so I'm going to stop us here about this topic. But the next thing is about the meta. So about the actual, let's say the changes that we made. And let me pull up the article that we had on our website. And these are the changes that we had for update 1.25. So we will talk about the meta here, and then possible future meta, and talk about map meta for the next subjects.
Yep.
So let me jump over to this other screen. Okay. So weapon balance changes. These are some changes that we did right after, and there has been quite some time since the last meta change. I believe was it last year that we had the major weapon changes with the faction weapons, and finally no more all AK. We see a lot of people using different weapons like the AUG or the SG or the HK even. I see some people really good with the HK. And I think what a lot of the changes that we did in 1.25 is also, hey, what about the other weapons? Not just the rifles, changing it up, but what about shotguns? What about the SMGs? So, and maybe we can do some changes with snipers. So I guess let's start. Get started here. With maybe we can go down the list real fast and talk about SVD first.
Yeah. So as what I mentioned, it was really about like we actually pretty much touched nothing on the ARs itself. So starting with the SVD, it was fully redesigned. And I know that in the community, it's caused a little bit controversy in terms of like, okay, some people love it, some people hate it. That's always the case.
Yes.
But what we wanted to convey with it is that we wanted to figure out a new position for it in terms of where our other snipers are. And that is all really to make more room for other ideas and other gameplay styles with the snipers. So how we're looking at it is that right now, the way things were, there was too much similarities with the snipers. There was literally just a reason to use U ratio and not really touch any of the other ones. We wanted to try to break that circle of giving other option to the sniper gameplay and also leave possibly room for other ideas in the future. And that's the kind of carrying theme of a lot of the changes we've done this time around with the weapons. So yeah, that's really about the SVD, is that it is highly inaccurate if you're moving. So shooting with it while you're moving is not a good idea, but it is a weapon where you can actually move really quickly, but you have to learn how to shoot with it. So movement and shooting is the two key things to unlocking its potential. The fire rate was lowered. That was lowered to really make it so that it is not extremely, like you cannot mow down the whole team with it, because we lowered the recoil of it, because now it is a weapon that also does more damage. So there's much more danger to even one shot if done right.
Yes.
And that's what we wanted it to be, that even if you would master U ratio, that doesn't mean you have mastered SVD, because it caters to a different type of play style and a different type of player. So that's one of these gunplay aspects that we wanted to highlight with the SVD redesign, and also the fact that we wanted to leave room for other snipers in the future in the meta.
That's great to hear, and again, I wanted to make sure that I convey this message. I hope everyone always goes into meta changes with the open mind, with that in mind, like everything we just talked about. Like, hey, maybe the SVD is a certain way, and it makes room for other weapons to come in the future. Tease, maybe, hint, hint, wink, wink, in the future, or I just want to make it so that it's just. I feel like a lot of times it's just like, oh, change, no, this is change bad. a lot of people, I guess, like get used to kind of a weapon a certain way, and then just they're not very like, oh no, like it's this change, this is horrible. But we have to think more about. I think we have to think more positively. What can happen and in the future about different weapons, and what can we introduce in the future with that in mind. And again, it goes back to what we just talked about, maybe you will see more SVDs versus like instead of E-ratios or things like that. And I'm pretty sure SVD is not the only gun we were looking at, even though it was the one that was worked on this time around.
It was the one that was made the most sense to change within the meta, to give that room for other things, because that's how we look at it, is that the other snipers are serving their purpose already. U ratio is one of those weapons that like it's set itself in stone in critical ops pretty much. So everything else has to cater around those choices, and that's what SVD redesign was about. But yeah, we can maybe move forward because we have a pretty big list to go through. So the SMGs are next, and with those, we actually lowered the prices of MP5 and MPX, and especially with the MP5, it was being underpowered, so we did boost its capabilities a little bit. So now it's a much more viable pick in terms of like where it's located and where it's usually used. So
it feels
that was really
nice.
what we wanted to do with them.
What you did with it feels really nice, and I think I see a lot more people, let's say when I'm playing ranked, I see a lot more people using that, and I can't wait to see it competitive.
Yeah, and it was again one of these things that like we talk about a lot of in the patch notes about damage over distance and range fighting, and it really is about balancing those distances, and it's not about like boosting the damage output of the weapon every time. It can be simply by increasing the fire rate or lowering the fire rate and then changing the distance that really makes the difference in the weapons and the way they are meant to be positioned against each other. And this is what I talk about, a certain gun versus certain gun situations. The lower end of the SMGs is a really important one because that comes right after the pistol round usually. So how effective are those weapons in that moment, but also when you have to go eco and like you have to think like, okay, what weapons do I pick for this thing? I need something cheap yet reliable. What's my game style? Can I handle the deagle, or should I pick something that's more spray and helps me with that kind of gameplay? So it's really about just finding all these nuances within the economy and the balance that we're looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, then we have
But yeah, I guess the next we can move forward. So
MPX.
we have what?
MPX and Deagle.
Well, yeah, I kind of covered the SMGs together
Yes.
because
Okay.
MPX was basically just a price decrease that we wanted to do because that was about the low-end SMGs to allow them to be a little bit cheaper, to maybe give a little bit idea what to buy. Like, should I buy this or save something? It's really something that you have to do as a player. Like, you have to do the math in this game. You you better like it sometimes because it does make a change. Like that $100 might win you the game when you really go at it. But yeah, the next one's Deagle and MR96. So the so-called heavy hitters on the pistol category. With Deagle, we wanted to simply make it feel better. It was already great. We wanted to make it even greater. And one of the ways we did it is by making it do even more consistent damage and be more easier to control, because we do love those deagle highlights and those headshots. They are really something, and this is a change that we wanted playing with the deagle to feel epic, and also that weapon to be in the right hands, the kind of weapon that can turn the tide on a match. Like that's really all there is to a deagle, and we wanted to really focus on it. That's also the eco round focus that we had with a lot of these changes. The MR96 is really kind of like, we could say, a little brother to the deagle. Its damage output is more consistent, but you have to hit your shots exactly with it. It is much more of a aimer's weapon because of the way it's done, and also lowering the fire rate gives it a little bit of a separation from deagle. So whether your playstyle is catered towards deagle or MR, there's something there for both playstyles, and that's really what we want to do with it. And also these changes for these pistols were meant so that they can counter ARs and higher end weapons with the cheap price, because they're mostly used in these eco situations a lot. So that's one of the things that we wanted to carry out. And the dual MTX change with the less reduction of recoil was kind of the same idea, because it's at the top end of price with the pistols. So we wanted to make sure that there's a clear separation and difference on low-end pistols versus high-end pistols, and where you're supposed to be using them. So that's pretty much about the pistols.
All right. Now, shotguns.
Yes, I guess you could say the topic of the day.
The topic of the day, yes.
But yeah. So with shotguns, the feedback that we've been collecting over the past year was that they were really underutilized and underused. Really, they were not used to the level that we would like to see, and not the way we wanted them to be used as well. And the main reason for this was that it's been a real challenge in the history of this game to balance them out well. They really easily become overpowered if the damage is boosted too much, but also they can be nerfed completely out of existence. And that's what been kind of happening before. And what we really wanted to do with them this time was just improve them a little bit from the point where they were. And that we did by changing the damage over distance values of the weapons and also the armor penetration. So situationally, usually armor is the one that has the biggest impact on those when the armor penetration values are really, really low. So basically, we changed the M1887 and FP6, the distance over damage, and with Super 90, we did the same, but we lowered the actual fire rate because it would have been really, really overpowered with that fire rate that it used to have. And I know that the community has been talking a lot about Super 90 lately, about it being too overpowered, but everyone needs to remember that it is the most expensive out of the shotguns. And the weapons that it goes against are usually overclassing it on range and accuracy in terms of the places where it's being used. So with a shotgun, you are basically the close range damage dealer of the team. And that means you're really vulnerable to the range attacks. If you don't know how to play right, you're going to get taken out. And that's what we hope to see. And we've actually balanced, for example, with the deco and MR and the range over distance type of balances. Those are all things that are made to be counters against this way of playing. Yes, Super 90 is getting a lot of attention, but it is getting like all the other shotguns are pretty good and on distance as well. Not as good because their price is lower, but it's still about finding the balance. And right now the meta is still really evolving. Like we could say, like it is too early to say where things are heading in terms of competitive play with it, because we're starting to see people use, and this is something that we do follow the feedback and we do follow everything going around, and we do see people finding ways to counter the weapon already. And that's really changing gameplay styles and figuring out, some players will figure out that, okay, Deagle versus Super 90, everyone give it a try. You might surprise how good Deagle does against it, because if you play the right way, that's all there is. That's the core of the game itself, is that you want to have the right weapons in the right situations and within the team as well. If you see that there are Super 90s on the other team and you don't have them, figure out a way around it.
Yeah,
That's
but
really
it's also
the main thing.
relevant to like the map that you play on, right? I mean, like if you're playing in canals, then for the most part, then shotgun might not be the best option. Might be better to go with some long range weapons like HK or whatever. So it's very situational, also depending, of course, on the player, right? But also in like where you are literally in the map or where these battles take place. So.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's really there is into it, is that what I wanted to still mention about it is that it also means that, like, if you are the player taking the shotgun, don't run into the open fields. That's not the way you play. Let the rest of the team take the open fields who have the weapons to do that. You take the narrow paths to clear those out. There's a team play aspect to it, and we're enforcing team play even heavily. Like, this is not a game for solo stars, so to say. It is a team effort, and you have to play as a team. So it also plays against what weapons are the enemy team picking. And there's a certain level of, like, okay, if everyone goes the same weapon, that round's going to look a little bit odd, so to say. But yeah, just wanted to point those out.
So again, just to kind of go over what we said earlier, I hope everyone goes into meta changes. I know there changes, and after a year of not having changes, it's everyone just kind of like something changed, and that's something we do want to look into, right? Like maybe meta changes shouldn't happen all the time, right? It shouldn't be like every month, but maybe it can happen like once or twice a year. Where players really get to kind of see like how they adjust to it, and that's what we are looking for. We want to really see. We need time to see how players play with it and see how it is. how all the weapons generally work that from the changes. And we just because I wanted to make note that just because like everyone started using, let's say, Super 90 for example, we can't just change Super 90 right now just because everyone says, oh, Super 90 is OP or something like that. We need to have time to analyze everything. We need to see, okay, what if some other people have tried different weapons to try to counter, like Zenklar just said earlier, and we need to.
Yeah, we have our thesis to fulfill, and
Yes.
we're monitoring that situation constantly.
Yes.
But it's also like kind of relates to like the novelty of things, right? So things change or something new gets added, and then that gets way more attention because of the changes. So of course the weapons that did not get changed, and let's say what's the weapon? HK didn't change, right? So
Yes.
HK didn't change at all, but everyone is using it more and more and noticing that
Exactly.
it's actually a valuable weapon
right.
in the
Yes.
current
And so
meta.
the same thing happens when or the same thing happened also when we introduced back then new weapons. So it's like for example, Vector. We added that into the game, and so literally everyone is using it, of course, because it's new. Everyone wants to use it. So
Yes.
it's kind of tricky. We have to like see, like, also based on like what's like not necessarily the initial phase of when the weapons are used, but also like how does it evolve later. Like how are weapons going to be used like in a later stage when it's not a novel thing anymore, when it's not everyone is using it. So I think that also kind of takes like, or is not saying it's the single reason to like justify this, but
Yes.
it is at least something to consider. Like everyone will of course use the new and changed stuff. So that's just how things go. And I'm sure that also even for maps, so like when a new map gets released, everyone plays in that map because it's new, it's fresh, it's but it doesn't mean that like it's very hard to tell how something actually affects a meta on, let's say, day one or even week one or maybe even month
Even a
one.
month one.
Even the
Yeah.
month one,
Yes.
yeah.
So it just needs time, and like I think that it's important that we do listen to your feedback. Constructive feedback is always nice. We're not ignoring that, and this stretches for like a lot of different things. And we consider most of the feedback. So I understand it's a hot topic right now, but
Yes.
we also have to keep into account that there's more maybe not so visible factors in play here.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap up here, like for this part, the subject itself.
Yes.
We are listening, like we said before, and if you really have really good, like if you really if you want to make a video, if you want to make really good like points of why this should be a certain way, then feel free to do so, because we love seeing stuff like that. But that's constructive feedback when we actually see all those things. But I just want to make sure that the community knows that we are not just closing our eyes and be like, okay, all right, which gun should be buffed now, and like Russian roulette, and let's make a change and do that, make that change, and just based off of nothing. No, that's not how we do things.
So, these changes were part of a bigger plan that we set out in our patch notes really I think really well, that like the focuses that we have and the future ideas and leaving room for those, that's all there is to it. And we are looking at things like really systematically, and we have our thesis that we are trying to perform with these weapons. So it's always about just seeing, does it happen? And if it happens, great, we are on the right track. And that's usually it. But it's always a learning process, and it's an evolving process. We've never set in stone that, like you could say, Eurasia is one weapon that we could say it's pretty set in stone in terms of way it is. We all like it. But that's also one thing I wanted to just point out quickly, that we did release a lot of data with the weapon changes, and you can go check those out on the website and really figure out how the weapons work. There's a lot of data that has been simplified and released. So that, yeah, you can see it on the screen right now, is that we released a lot of the stats for the characters, the damage outputs on certain areas of the body, and all this kind of stuff. And we'll be keeping these up to date anytime we change things. And that's something that we wanted to do. And we're going to be providing more relevant data as well. So that's one of the things that we want to do more and more, to be more transparent and more open about all the changes within the game. So anyone can take this data and really do the math and try to figure out, okay, and then give us a suggestion. Show us the numbers, show us the proof. It really helps us also if you can come up with a good thesis like why this weapon should change, because we do care and we want to see that. So
and for now, this data is in the patch notes, by the way. In case you're curious, like, oh, where is this? It's in the patch notes of 1.25 on our website, and we're still looking into ways to display this even better. But that's ongoing. But at least you have some kind of a base of like data that you can
use this as a reference for now, and don't really turn into the old stuff. This is like a new current thing, and we'll be updating it in the future.
Yeah,
figuring out a better way to display it as well.
Exactly.
But yeah, just to wrap up again, I hope, you know, just with everything that we talked about, you know, I hope the community trust us about what we're doing. Like we are really, you know, evaluating everything before we make changes. And here, you know, we are showing you more transparency. I hope you can see everything that we're doing to give you that transparency of and how we want to work on making improvements to the game itself. So great, awesome. Next subjects. So I guess, you know, this is the meta here. I guess the next topics is either like future meta or map meta. So
I think we could go to map meta because we spend a lot of time on the meta stuff, but basically future meta means all the things we talked about earlier. We're going to be enforcing those core principles of the game more and more and focusing on those things to make the gameplay feel more better and stuff. Like we really want to improve those roots even more. And yeah, we can go to the map meta stuff and future map ideas next.
Yeah. So I guess like in the map meta, like we kind of touched on some of this before. So you know what I am doing in my team is we're doing several things at a time. Yes, of course, I'm still working on new maps, but at the same time, I'm also working on the existing maps. So if you're already familiar with the game for, you know, several years, maybe there's let's call them the old maps, and they have undergone some reworks. So the let's say the most recent example of that is Canals, where Canals was, you know, it was an old map before and it has been reworked to kind of match newer standards. So the map meta in the future is basically I'm going to like keep updating and reworking all the maps. There's still 2 maps left to be reworked, in the sense that Canals was reworked, or back in the day Plaza. And there will of course be more maps coming up, of course the Fuse maps, to also kind of help that competitive scene to have basically more maps to play around. And these maps, they can act as like, okay, this team feels more confident in this map, this team feels more confident in that map, and it's basically a combination of all things, you know, the weapon play and the team setup and stuff like this, and how well can you use utilities, or how well can you not use utilities. So all these things are things that I consider and I keep into account whenever I'm working on the maps. So there's one thing that I can actually touch upon in light of the competitive map related stuff. So the reworks is like, why am I doing reworks? The reworks of course, they changed the map visually, but maybe it's not 100% clear why I want to do a rework in the first place. So the reworks of these maps are there are several reasons why I do them. One is for better performance of the game, just device performance. So you have, theoretically it should run better. Of course, most map reworks also introduce more visual flair, so it's always on the. it can be perceived differently, but
Delicate
for
balance, so to say.
yes, it is for better performance. But most importantly, I think the most important reason why I reworked the map is that they are built in such a way that they're flexible for the future. Like the reason why I can, if the competitive scene has kind of taken a look at like the existing maps. So for example, Port. I updated Port very recently. It is something that is possible because Port is built in this, let's say, new way, and I'm able to address this very quickly. The same will happen for SOAR. The same will happen for even Raid and stuff like this. So those are maps that is easy to like adjust in a major way. They're flexible, and that's because I had to rework them in a different way so that they're flexible in that way. So the maps that are now currently, right now as we're speaking, are currently not as flexible, and as a result may have some problems, are Grounded and Bureau. But of course, there's always the idea like, oh, you shouldn't rework it; they're perfect and stuff like this. But they really aren't. So to put it into context or put it into perspective, if I would want to, let's say, move a door, or if I would want to like create an additional hallway in one of these, let's say, old maps, that's currently not possible because of the way that they were built. Like what, 5-6 years ago? I don't even know. It was built before my time. So they're not flexible. I cannot change them easily. It takes a lot of effort to do that. So instead, to try and fix the old way, it is better to just rework it in a new way so that in the future I can actually make changes. So theoretically I could watch a circuit and then something is happening and then I can change it. So that's basically like the main reason for the rework. And additionally, there will be more assets made for the maps that I can then use also to create new maps. It's something that I can basically recycle is I guess an appropriate word here.
Yeah.
Or reuse the same asset. It's just a win-win situation where I can make a new map with these assets, and I don't have to think so much about like the performance of it, and it all just works because that's how they're built. And if I want to reposition a hallway, if I would want to reposition a car or a tree or something else, or if I want to fill a gap in a forklift in Port, then that's now all possible. So that's why I basically do the rework. So yeah, map meta. In conclusion, it's reworks, of course, still, and there will be new maps coming up. It just takes a while to get this all done, but we're working hard on it. So, but it's interesting because these are also the weapon changes that Zenklar has been doing or has introduced in 1.25. Those are all also things I have to at least consider. So if let's take a hypothetical situation. If Zenklar or the other designers decide that okay, the frag grenade now covers like four times its size, then I have to kind of keep that into account. Like, okay, so that means that some areas are kind of like not so safe, or others are safer and stuff like this. So I need to keep it into account, And if stuff from like the core of that part of the game changes, I need to be able to also address that quite fast. So I guess people will kind of see also what that means kind of soon. We can kind of maybe elaborate on that more, but it's all stuff that's still ongoing. Just yeah. So I don't know how you, Zenklar, what you think, feel about that, but that's basically the map meta and the future in short. Future in short.
That's
Yeah,
great
that's
to hear.
definitely something that like we're working more and more closer together to figure out these, like how does the weapons play in those maps and what are the different possibilities and all that. So that's something that we're in the future like even more on focusing on internally, like how to work together as a team to figure out these changes as well more and more. And we've started doing that a lot more, and we'll continue doing that more because in the end it will result in better gameplay and better everything for everyone. So that's one of the ways we look at it, at least.
Yeah, and me jumping into the the whole esports and leading the esports, it's really important to work with these awesome people here and many other people that can't be on the stream today. But basically, yeah, it's just everything in esports has. It's not just planning tournaments, right? It's not just like, hey, okay, let's plan a tournament, let's do one next week, let's do one the week after. It's so much is involved into it, and that's what we think about when we're doing all these different things, and that's something that I will be covering actually next. What a smooth transition. Anyways, but working, it's so important to work with them because it's everything from the meta, from the weapons, from the meta of the maps. It's all tied together, and like we said before about how players play in them, how something may be just too overpowered or something doesn't make sense on the map. It's all really important things that it's a collaborative effort for us to move towards the future. So yeah, this is it's been great to work with together, and I can't wait to see what we would do in the future and show you guys then as well. But yeah, I guess the next subject is going to be the esports schedule. So so before I guess I just want to talk about the things that's coming up at least for this year, and then I can talk about the kind of like mindset going forward about what we want to do with esports. For at least this year, how we had originally planned it, we planned it with one circuit before, and then we had another circuit for sure that we want to do, and at least two of them for this year. And in between these circuits, we wanted to make sure that we had other types of tournaments. So that's why, let's say, for example, we have the mobile esports tournament that's coming up in from June to July. They will be kind of like the tournament that's going to be focused on right after circuit. There's this tournament, and then after that, we plan to have a Rumble tournament, and then we will have another circuit, as you can see earlier on the video, the fall of 2021. So the goal of it is what we want to do is what we want to create is basically ongoing tournaments for the players throughout the year, right? That's one of the first things that we want to do, and besides just having our official tournaments, but also working with different community organizers to make this happen. And we will continue to want to do this going forward. So circuit season 3 will start then, and then more official tournaments to come. And Rumble will actually, as you guys know, is the more fun type of tournaments, and I don't want to give too much information about it, but it is coming towards June, and you will see more information about that very soon. But talking about competitive plans, so let me move to this here, and you guys did talk a lot in the meta, so I guess it's my turn to kind of jump into here and talk about our competitive plans. So we want jumping into planning and everything for esports. You know, we want big things to happen. I believe all of us here has the same goal of making sure that we want the game to grow, and we want cool and awesome tournaments to watch and see. So in the future, we really want to be able to see, besides having something consistent for players to play on, it would be nice to also have consistent critical ops to watch throughout the year. So that's one of the things that we want to achieve going into next year. But in general, we just want the best experience for our players, for our game to grow. And for me, you know, some people know, some people may not know. I personally, for me, I came into this game as a player. You know, before I worked at the company, and already when I was a player, you know, I wanted to host tournaments. I wanted to see the game grow, and it's just that has been the mindset going into here, and that's why I want to continue going forward. And everything that has happened so far that we planned, it's the first phase of getting in here to collect that data, see how players play. And I wanted to make sure that we note that everything that we do is entirely upon there's so much information that's considered going forward. It's not just about one thing. It's not just about during tournaments. So everything development, everything that happens in maps or weapon changes, meta changes, but also everything is reliant on the players themselves, on the teams themselves, about how the teams play, how serious they are, how serious they are to stay in certain teams. And by doing that as a collaborative effort, we're able to move forward and do bigger things. So already, what I really like about how Circuit has been is that I feel like it's been very fun and very successful because of how the community has been involved. Everything that we have been doing has involved the community itself, and it's all people that have cared about this game, and that's what it is, right? Like, in order for us to go forward, it's great to work with people that actually care about the game going forward. So Circuit itself, we have awesome casters. Cool Mark, we got Warren, we got Twist, we got A-Master, we got Nikomo, we got Pelin, and they all care about the game, and it's great to work with them because, like, you know, some of them, let's say they were content creators, or they were influencers, but we didn't know that some of them could actually cast, and, you know, even if they're like beginning in casting, they have been getting better, and that's something what we want to create. We want to create this new ecosystem that there's different opportunities for the community to be involved and think about the future for their future as well. Because maybe someone is an influencer and they start to cast. That gets their foot in the door, and they can do cool things in the future. Maybe they don't cast for our game, they do something else for another game, or they have that live stream experience, and then they can do other things related to talk about different things in a public standpoint, right? I guess you would say. So we want to be able to create more of that. And let's say even just like talking about community itself, community involvement, we also have Compact Esports. You know, they were just a community tournament organizer, and they were doing awesome stuff, like just hosting tournaments themselves. And we thought, why not? Like, why don't we involve someone from the community to do something that we want to create together? And that is the mindset going forward. We want to build on this ecosystem, build on this foundation going forward. So it's very exciting, and it's just kind of like I've talked to some people. It's just kind of like, it's really, if you think about it, it's like we are creating here like this new the foundation of this sports, because essentially when you think about esports, it is basically like a sport, right? Let's say you talk about basketball, right? Like, and everything that you're doing from the minor leagues or the D League that they have in basketball, then you have the pro leagues in the future, and everything that we're doing is going together to build that future. So one of the things that we want to really focus here on going into next year is I would say to have that more consistency and more seriousness of everyone in a whole, and to be able to work together. So the first thing that we want to introduce is the point system. And the point system here is that the idea behind it is that currently the only point system that we have is for each individual circuit, and it's cool and everything to earn points, and then it could kind of get you qualified for that, that tournament itself. So, but what we said earlier is that we're thinking about the bigger picture now. We want exciting new things to happen. So what we're doing with the new point system is that every official tournament that we have, the points that you earn, and it's going to be based on the team that you're with. So if you are a part of a team and you earn those points, if you stick together and you continue to join in other tournaments, those points would be added up. And all the points that you get, you will be able to qualify in special future events in the future. Special events, I kind of said future twice. Special, but basically, it's very exciting because it's like all we wanted to make sure that this is highlighting the hard work from being part of a team, and of course there's going to be certain rules and things involved with it, and when we're ready to show that to you, we will, and you can see it. But the idea behind it is that we want to see. We want to be able to build this esports going forward, and the next thing I want to talk about will be part of that, because esports, like I said, it's like the story, and we want to be able to see those familiar faces. That's why you're excited, just like watching a sports. You're cheering for certain teams, or you're cheering for certain players, and you want them. That's what makes it exciting, and that's what we want to do here. And the next thing that we want to talk about is official player registration for official tournaments. So everyone that's playing in our official tournaments will need to sign up officially to play in them. And this way we are able to get to know all of the serious competitive players that are playing, and this way we can build that story. In the future, there can be this star athlete of Critical Ops, and that person will be able to be like, I guess, shown into the public, and this person is pretty good, pretty good, got some bragging rights to do, and there's so much more that we can build off of this. And I don't know, it's just been pretty exciting. I've been talking to so many people about this, and it's this is just the initial idea. All the hard work actually needs to be done right now, and it has been going on for quite some time now. But I can't wait for the final product to actually show when everything comes together, and hopefully you guys can see what we have planned, like why and how it all works together in the future. So I hope that covers some of the ideas, I guess. Going.
It sounds pretty good, but what are you saying? Because it sounds like players being able to create their own story and build that team story as well, and just like get that professionalism and esports vibes into the whole thing. To me, that sounds like the best type of esports, that you get to go from the beginnings to the actual highlights, and that sounds really good.
People to look up to if you're not the bestest of the best, It's like, okay, maybe I can see this player doing well, maybe I can kind of mimic that. So to me it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's like it's one person that's like, hey, they're known for they're pretty good, but this other person that's a rookie, that's just like surpasses this person like crazy, and it's just yeah, it's so exciting planning all these different things. And even with circuit, like let's say the things that we plan, we want to have cool fun stuff in between, let's say games. Maybe there can be some type of a halftime kind of thing that we do with different things. Like maybe we can involve viewers to jump in and participate in certain things, right? But again, it's about thinking about the future, and I can't wait for it. But
and those are all the kind of things we also on the development side really want to support. Like we've had this idea of like from zero to hero, And to me, that sounds like the perfect way of expressing that you're a new player, you can get in, you can be a fan of someone who is like at the top, and that's where you inspire to be one day. And what does it take to get there? You need to learn the game, you need to understand different things, and in the end, build your own squad and your team, and get to those arena level things and move forward. So that's really all there is about that kind of like building that story. And to me, that sounds like really exciting to be part of. So cool.
Yeah, and I want to kind of like make sure that I mentioned something that we mentioned last year on the competitive stream. It's just that we want to also have more exposure to our casual players, because we have our competitive players, we have casual players, but we want more people to jump into the scene and see how cool it is to participate. And everything is it's there's so much involvement and there's so much planning in this, which is crazy. Like from things like, okay, let's say even just big updates, coordinating with Zenklar and Naigel here. It's like we can't, like, we have these tournaments going, we can't just throw a big update. Okay, everything changes right in mid tournament. Good luck everybody. You should be able to figure out. No, there's so much in planning involved on all this. And again, like, it's just I think what it is that when you see how everything works together, then we can finally see the work that we have been putting in. And hopefully you have been seeing that since last year. Even just when we started doing the faction weapon, we told everyone that we were doing official tournaments, and you guys can actually not just hear what we have to say, but also see the work that we have been putting towards the future of our competitive esports. So yeah, I guess that's the most I can I guess talk about this. And the thing is, we did talk about having these Discord Discord stage, or like I keep mixing them up with Twitter Spaces and stuff like that. But basically, some podcasts where we can talk about certain subjects and really get into certain topics and have more transparency about certain things going forward. Yeah.
Join
like
our Discord for that. Yeah, discord.gg/criticalops. Let's go. Well, we have the new Discord feature, a stage feature, so we can have podcasts there as well, so you can listen into some interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that's something we've been talking a lot internally, that like we really want to build this idea of like platform where players interested in the competitive side can come in and learn about things and hear about like regular updates and topics, and like maybe we could bring in some of the valued members of our community to talk with us about things, and all this kind of stuff that helps us convey more stuff to you guys about what's happening with the esports and what's happening with the game and all that. So really looking forward to all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yep. And so talking about all these different things, right? I also want to, I guess the next topic that we want to get to before it gets too late here is that it's the quality of life. So I a lot of times I hear like, oh, I just wanted to kind of like make sure we give more information about stuff like this, and even though some people have heard this before, yes, I'm saying it again, but I want to make sure people know. There's, being a dev, not everyone is a dev. Like not everyone does the same thing. How about that? That's easier to put it. And everyone has their role. The different roles.
Yeah.
Some people do lead level designing. Some people do game development, and I focus on building esports. I focus on trying to connect the community and delivering the news that our developers want to show to the community, and also taking the community feedback and bringing it back to developers. But I want to make clear that, because like everything that we do in the future, let's say like we have artists that make, let's say, skins, or they do different things related art related, they still need to work while we do different changes in development. So when we have events or we have different skins or whatnot that comes out, yeah, they still need to work. They still do things so the events come out. But I want to make sure that we also show that we also want to focus on quality of life things. We want to also increase the gameplay experience for the players themselves. And some of the subjects that we'll talk about today is talking about things like that. And it's not just, you know, always about let's say different game mode or things like that. It's just also what about the stuff that exists in the game that may have been a problem. And maybe just to start off, you know, let's say one of the things, the bomb being planted right after let's say the round ends. So if one of the changes we did recently was that the map the bomb disappears at the very end. And a lot of people were like, is that intended change? We didn't list that change, but it's important to show because it was one of the glitches that happened. It's like the round's over and the bomb was planted, but everyone still has to wait and for the bomb to go off for the round to end. But yes, so the bomb being disappeared was actually one of the intended changes, right?
Yeah, it was related to a lot of old code that had to deal with some of the new game modes that didn't play well with that idea, and the bomb was actually being destroyed at the beginning of the next round, which was a problematic solution, but it did work back then. So that's one of those things that, like, now the win condition of the match, once there is a declared winner, nothing else matters after that. The situation will not change in terms of who won the round. But that was a possibility before. It was one of those old hidden things that we never had to really deal with until we wanted to bring out new game modes and these new tech related things that exposed that. So yeah, that was one of those things, and sometimes it's really hard to list all of those kind of nuanced things, but of course players do notice, but we did focus on communicating it that this was an intended change. And that's also one thing, like, why everyone should really join our Discord and stay there, because that's where we get the first information out, usually, always. If there is a change, there's a new version of the game, you'll see it there first. And that's a really good touching point because there's a lot of community members there to help out and help you stay informed about everything. So do join there because that's a good channel for you to stay up to date on all these kind of changes related to quality of life. And like, you find some bug that you think like, okay, is this normal? Like, did this happen before? And the main thing that we want to hear there is people being able to like show that, like, how to reproduce and do that kind of stuff for the bugs, because that's how we can find out and fix and bring them forward. Like, those things come to the development team once we have all the information needed. So that's something that just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, and then going on what we were saying, there's even like just developers that we have, we can only work on so many things at one time. So there's, you know, we have great ideas from community members and whatnot, and these different ideas and going in, but we also want to make sure that we will focus on the bugs also. Let's say that if there's something that is game breaking that kind of gives someone a advantage over the other player, like we talked about earlier in maps, like, we don't want that to happen. We want things to try to be more fair across the board. So example maybe is like let's say the quick switch bug that we had. You know, it doesn't make sense for someone to see someone, like someone to get shot at and not be able to see the person to react or to do anything. And that doesn't make sense. Like, we want to make sure we address certain things like that. So
yeah, definitely. That's why we keep an eye out on certain things.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, that can relate to Peeker's advantage. I guess, Zenklar, you can take it away here.
Yeah, so okay, so quality of life things, if we're talking about like things that we are currently focusing on and will be focusing on in the near future as well, is with maps and together with map team and Naigel, we're also looking at like character visibility, for example. Character, how visible in certain situations like dark, shadowy areas and places like that. that also brings us to the topic of peaker's advantage. In the community, there's been talk about issues that are named like leg peak and head glitches. They all fall kind of inside the same category of things, which is peaking and advantage over stuff like positioning and all that. So we are really focused on nailing down those, learning about those issues first, then deciding exactly carefully how and what we need to do to improve them. And that process is usually a long one. It involves a lot of testing, a lot of exploring of different ideas to really nail down all the finer details. And then we can get to the development phase of like improving those kind of things. And that's really one of the things that like we really want to make sure that like every one of those kind of little details that matters is up to spot and done right. And we've noticed the issues that the community has brought up to us. We have our programs that help us test them. And if you want to join those programs, to join our Discord, that's the first gateway to all of that. And then please, Naigel, if you want to get to a really interesting program that we have going on. So it's some of these things that we really want to take our time and really focus on the community to help us find these bugs and find these issues. And it involves a lot more than just saying, there's this thing, fix it, please. We need to know a lot of fine details about it. Examples. We have our some of our top players who are part of our programs and us developers playing together, testing and trying to understand why certain things are happening and what are all the different things contributing into it. And that's one of the things like what I wanted to highlight, like character visibility and peaker's advantage. You could say those are two of the kind of main topics that we're really focusing on, and as well as among other things. But yeah, in terms of quality of life gameplay things, that's really something that a lot of the competitive scene is really focused on and cares about. So we hear you and we're focusing on those, and you'll see a lot of cool things in the near future. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yes, that's a good way to leave it. And again, I just want to, again, one of those topics that you talked about. When someone talks about something, about a bug or whatever it is, we also need to, like, you have to understand, the more data you give is better, obviously, right? But we on our end have to reproduce how that happened, why that happened, and there's different devices, right? There's Android devices, there's iOS devices, right? We have to be able to actually see why it happened. Is it only on this device? And after that, we have to see if there's a fix that we can do for that particular device, or I guess mobile platform, right? And hopefully it doesn't do anything wrong to the other platform. So there's just that alone, like the things I just said right now, it's so much that I just said. Please know that that's what we have to go through. So again, when you give feedback, when you give when you report bugs or whatever, the more information you give us, it's tremendously helpful, because it's like, okay, iOS version or like operating system version, we know what game version you're on, then we can actually see, okay, what can we do to solve this problem, and what can we do going forward. So okay, well, another I guess really big topic, that hot topic 2 is weapon view model.
Yes. I guess you could say that it's been a long-standing topic in parts of the community, especially. And I just want to quickly lay out the groundwork for. So back in 1.17, 1.19, we had a few legacy bug issues that caused us to change view models. That was not something we were planning on doing at that point. It just kind of was a forced change on technical related issues and things. And we had to come up with a solution for it fairly quickly. And that's what we've been kind of living with since then. Well, we started working on improved view models right away. that work has taken a long time. That's mainly due to us having so many weapons and so many animations on those weapons. The main thing that the system that we are using is quite slow to work with. It's really taxing on our animator, and that's one of those things that like we have to go through every single animation on the game related to weapons, and that means multiple animations on each weapon.
Not to
but that
mention also
work-
the different
yeah.
models for it. Like
Yes, also the different models and all that. So there's a lot of things going into it, but also that's not just move them a little bit to somewhere. There's a lot more other things that need to change with it to keep the experience better. And we've taken our time to focus and improve all the aspects of the thing. So we've touched a lot more than just move them around a little bit, because in order for us to improve the experience, well, we have to work on these already. Why not improve everything at the same time? And that's what we've been focusing on doing. And we'll have some clips later to show for those who are hanging here with us to see that like what the work that we've done. So a precursor to that thing. But yeah, we are working on those, and it's been a lot of hard work. And I think the community is going to be pleased once we do release all the information out about how we changed and why we changed and what all the new things are about. There's been a heavy focus on improving the gameplay experience in terms of visibility and all the things that I mentioned, like Peeker's advantage and all that. There's many things that have contributed to those old legacy issues, and we've taken our time to understand them and improve them on many levels, and view model improvements are just one of them.
Cool. And I guess one of the last topics for this stream itself, so we don't again we're going over time now, but yeah, one of the last topics I do want to cover is the Spectator client improvements. So besides the Spectator client that we have, we have been looking into ways to improve the existing Spectator experience in your local device near you, and that's something we will continue to explore to see how maybe there's certain things that we have, let's say in the Spectator client that we use for Circuit, some of those things can be put into the mobile Spectator experience, and that's something we want to look for into, because then I think there's a lot more exciting things that you can do in the future with you being able to, even just a caster, let's say, the more information you have, instead of just pushing those arrows to kind of go through, okay, I go through here and maybe something already big happened on another site, you don't know what's going on. But we want to be able to expand on this and have more opportunities in the future for different people, tournament organizers or even influencers that wants to do cool stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's the most information for those topics that I want to cover for at least this time around. And I guess we can show some things, I guess, before we end the stream. Yes.
Right.
So I guess I can maybe just show them, and then Zenklar, you could show, maybe talk about what everyone's seeing on the screen.
Yes. So yeah, this first one is a little bit of a pre-work about the weapon popping. That's a topic that a lot of players are interested. So what we've done is we've made it so that the movement speed is kind of showing with the popping itself, and we've made everything feel more tighter and less shaky, so to say. So these are some of the improvements that you can look forward to in the future.
Cool. Next one.
Next clip. So this one is about utilities. There's been an issue where utilities, when you throw them, they don't actually explode where they land. And that's one of the things that this video is highlighting, is that you see how on the 125, explosion marks on the floor afterwards don't match really where the grenades and stuff are landing. But on the 126, we've improved this stickiness to it so that basically it explodes where it should and where you expect it to be in terms of the stuff. And this is one of those tiny gameplay things that will hopefully make a big change in utility usage and the way people use them on a high level.
I think it's really important because sometimes, let's say some people may complain, that this flash was thrown, and how was I flashed? You know, that this pretty much will explain to you why you're flashed, because it looks like it was actually flashed like somewhere behind the wall, but in actual reality it was actually flashed in front of you, and that's why you were flashed. So again, it goes back to this quality of life kind of things that we want to make sure that we work on to improve, let's say, utilities, for example, for everyone.
Yeah, and this is also like there's still a lot more work to be done, but these are the first steps that like we're taking to improve these little by little and really focus on the core, like making them like really feel the way they should, like what it does, what you expect it to do. That's the whole goal with this. And yeah, just you can see the difference here yourself, like with the way it lands and where the actual explosion marker happens on the ground compared to where it lands on the old one. So those are the kind of tiny things. Like it might feel almost silly that it's such a tiny thing, but it does make a lot of difference in gameplay wise. That you know that it's gonna land exactly there because that's how I'm gonna throw it.
For sure.
But
like,
yeah, maybe we can go to the next.
I just want to say one more thing. It's just you want wherever the grenade lands, let's say the smoke grenade, to have that cover for you to walk over. You would really want it to land there and not somewhere else. Okay, so the next thing. Right here.
So the next one, this is about tracers. So you can see on the older one, they're much bigger and much more covering when you're shooting with this kind of burst. With Vector is a good example. You don't really see where the bullets are actually landing. You just see a blur of lines happening. With the 126, what we're aiming to do is, you can see the tracers are much tinier and tighter, so you can actually see the weapon spread much more better. And this will help you actually understand where the bullets are landing and all that. So just that, again, one of these tiny changes with the tracers, and this combined with the smoke trails is also, like in older ones, it contributed to a lot of visual noise. This is something we've focused on removing with it, and you can see here the new cool view models for a couple of these weapons and things. Just a little teaser in this way that you didn't even notice that we were talking about, that there's the new view model right there. So yeah, you can see the big difference with the Vector, probably. So I hope people understand that this is also on an iPad, so you can see the difference there. So this is what you can expect with these changes, and the focus that we have for the gameplay side of things. Like everything is focused on improving gameplay visibility and improving how everything feels. And yeah, just few minor teasers. Let's save the rest for the actual release and patch notes and stuff. This was just for everyone who's hanging out here with this in the stream with us. So.
All right. So we need to wrap up. And again, I thank everyone here joining us today for our competitive stream, watching for wherever you are in the world. And in case that you just joined us today, we did cover about some future events, development, and other awesome competitive related topics. But if you did miss the beginning, I would highly suggest that you go back and check out the VOD, and that we will make some kind of like I guess summarized posts on Reddit, and then of course the link to the VOD, so you can go and watch it as well in case you did miss this. And if you, let's say, speak a different language, hopefully you guys could be able to use that and translate that. And I believe YouTube also has those capabilities of the captioning where you can change it to a different language, so do look at that as well. But yeah, make sure you keep an eye out on our announcements about the things that we have planned in the future. And yeah, I guess it's time to say our goodbyes.
Yeah, I guess what you already did most of it. But thank you all for watching and listening to us talk. If you want to keep it up, join our socials, follow us everywhere. Discord.gg/criticalops. That's one place to go. But yeah, it's always fun to be in the stream, and it's nice to have also a different kind of take on, aside from the live stream. Like now we can focus on some things like this. So I hope we was informative enough and fun enough for you to watch. But either way, thank you so much from me. So that's my ending message.
Yeah, it's really nice to be in these streams, and yeah, it's a really heavy stream on terms of like information and topics, but I think sometimes good to have these as well, because this does give a lot of information and lets you kind of see behind the curtain on what things are going on, and I think it's really a lot of value in that. So if there's any ideas like the community has, like how can we improve, like make these easier to understand and easier to listen to and read and like all that, do let us know. We really want to improve these formats and things that we've been doing, like you've seen with the dev videos and the ideas we have for the more podcast-like stuff with our Discord server and stuff. So let us know any cool formats or any cool ideas how we can deliver more information to you. We're always interested and looking of ways, like what kind of platforms are you using to get your information from? Are you getting them from YouTube? Are you getting them from our social medias? Are you getting them from your friends or in game? We're always interested in like where do you get the information and how we can deliver better news to you, because that's really, the more informed you guys are, the more information you can give us, and it's a circle that just keeps making itself better. So we hope that everyone can give us like a lot of good feedback on those, and let us know, like, do you like the stream? Do you hate it? Too much information? Too complicated? Too technical? Just anything, and we'll be really glad. But yeah, really glad to be here, and it's been really fun talking to you. I could probably go for hours talking about this stuff, but just that's the designer in me.
So I guess you can end this like the traditional YouTuber kind of way. Make sure that you subscribe so you get the most information about as soon as it comes out. And I hope you guys did enjoy this, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.